So we're starting off this morning with your introduction to the Sydney Mini Maker Faire and a chat with our Mini Maker Faire producer Daniel Green and Powerhouse Museum Manager of Learning and Technologies Peter Marnie. And then throughout the day there'll be different things happening in here as well as out on the floor, so do keep checking your map and guide. It's got a timetable on there as well. So I'll hand it over to these guys and enjoy the day.
So good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second Sydney Mini Maker Faire. My name is Daniel Green, and thank you to Claire for introducing us. So as Claire said, I am the producer of the second Sydney Mini Maker Faire. I have a self-deprecating streak, and so what I would say at this point is something like, so what you're about to experience is largely my fault. Take that however you want, but that's not professional. And it's not charismatic, and you know, it's great that you can all be here so bright and early. So it goes without saying to sort of start the weekend that there are a zillion, literally a zillion, I counted individually, people who help make these things happen. As a kind of inside baseball moment into how a museum works, nothing ever turns around quickly in a large cultural institution like the Powerhouse Museum because of a number of reasons. A lot of people are involved in staffing and planning, and all of these things kind of have to be taken into account in order to make an event like this happen. We had 3 months to do this, which is kind of unheard of, and so there are many people to thank, you know, like Dave Jones, who has sacrificed his weekend to come and film things for his blog, but also for the benefit of documenting this event. We have wonderful people like volunteers like Kate Byrne, who was standing up there, our Powerhouse Museum volunteers, who I wasn't overlooking you, but it's good that you know, self-recognize, and of course wonderful people like Claire, Ian Wolf from Diffusion Science Radio, and of course all of you who've piled in at 10:30. So in May of 2012, in fact it was the day before I got married, I got a phone call from Peter Marnie, who's sitting next to me right now, and he said, "Daniel, are you able to come in to the museum? I just want to talk to you about something." And he pitched this idea to me that, like, have you heard of this thing called the Mini Maker Faire? They happen all over the place, and we'd like one to happen here. And would you be willing to kind of come on board and help out with that? Kate Byrne also has the esteemed honour of holding my phone for the next hour and a half, so you should all feel sorry for her. And at that point I said, "Sure, Pete." Actually, I thought about it for 5 minutes, and then I went and spoke to Kate and said, "This is a terrible idea, isn't it?" She's like, "Yeah, but you're going to do it anyway." She literally said that. And so I then signed on, and here we are a year and a half later after now completing 2 Mini Maker Fairs. And so I thought if anyone was ever in a position to talk with me and talk with you about why we're doing this, I thought it would be Peter Marnie, because you had the vision long before I came on board. It was one thing to kind of sit me down for an afternoon and say, "You should work on this thing with me." But where did it come from beforehand? How did the Mini Maker Faire get its grips into you?
Hi everybody. You could easily answer this for me, I reckon, because it's kind of obvious, isn't it, that this is what this place is about. Like, you know, Powerhouse Museum of Applied Arts and Sciences is its actual name. So really the thing that excites me about this place are the stories behind the things. Like, we try to make beautiful exhibitions which represent significant objects, things that are amazing, beautiful, and we try to sort of engage people in thinking about how it comes to be a Model T Ford or whatever it might be that's on display in this museum today and that we have in our collection. So to me, the Maker Faire, which I'd become aware of just through the world and Make magazine and, I don't know, just looking around at stuff, just seemed to be kind of the same thing as what this museum is about. So it's a kind of no-brainer, I thought. Just as an aside, what I what I really love about this museum, it's a story box. You know, it's a kind of treasure box, but it's a story place. And I really think of it as a museum of failure. Because really, like, these things didn't just appear like perfect Catalina airplane. You know, it didn't just like, oh, a Catalina one day. So to get to that point, people had to be experimental. They had to try impossible things. Robert Goddard's rocket engines down in the space exhibition, you know, he was the guy who solved problems about how you could launch something from here and have a vague idea where it was going to end up. And he was like a weirdo. He's like a guy out in the back shed, and people go, I don't know what he's doing out there, but it's probably not legal. You know, so, but, you know, he was running experiments. Long answer, but I kind of think that's what this museum is about. It's about showing the working out of things. We should do it more. We should show all of the versions and the iterations and the experiments that actually did go wrong, as well as the beautiful finished thing.
Who was the gentleman from the Metropolitan Museum of Art that said everything in this museum is made by a maker? This also includes like hunks of, you know, ancient Egyptian architecture that have been airlifted to New York. But what is that gentleman's name? He's important. It would be really important or vital if we could remember that right now.
Would be good, wouldn't it? You could take that question on advisement. Come back to you in a minute.
Thank you, Tony. So, all right, Peter. What's a maker?
Everybody's a maker. Everybody's a maker, Daniel. All these people are makers. You are a maker. I am a maker. My darling would say, you make a mess. So mostly, you know, I have a go at lots of different things and probably don't stay with many of them through to beauty, elegance, you know, fully functioning work. But I really think that it's just to be human, is to want to make the world more suited to your needs, you know, be how you like it to be. And so whether we are decorating the lounge room or whatever it is that we're doing, we're makers. That is the thing about the human animal, along with some crabs and some other creatures that make stuff. Everybody's a maker.
To create is
maker then becomes almost a problem because it's been branded and owned, and so then there are people, when we first started to put this thing together, who said, it's fantastic that you're doing this, please don't do it as a Maker Faire. And I'm like, what? What do you mean?
That's the operative question. Why? Because a capital M maker and fair with an E, fun fact, it's French, it means to make, so it's a pun, which I love. To a lot of people, to answer your question, so this gentleman here just simply said, why? Why would that be a problem? For a lot of people, the idea that something they were already doing in their own time and in their own space, and they already had a name for it, you know, some people call themselves tinkerers, some people call themselves crafters, some people call themselves hackers. In fact, Pia van Gelder, a fantastic artist who's currently showing over in Carriage Works and also in various capacities, has done lots of great things for us here in the museum as part of the ThinkSpace team. Gave a talk here not so long ago, kind of making a case for the right for people to be still called hackers, because it's kind of a dirty word. In the middle of the 90s, you kind of got, you know, people started wearing long black coats and wearing glasses and dodging things and saying whoa, and then all of a sudden it wasn't so cool anymore, or it gave this kind of idea that you were being shady, even when you start getting into the whole other thing of white hat hackers who only do good. It's just your fault, you have security bugs. But it's sort of lost its luster of being a sense of creativity and exploration. And this other word, maker, started coming in instead. So what is now known as a maker space, which is essentially a collective of people, or in one way or another, who have resources, please come in, sit down. fair enough. And share resources and their own knowledge to help each other work through projects. They were once called hacker spaces. They're now called maker spaces, but they basically do the same thing because there's something, hacking is a dirty word, and Peter Van Gelder put this idea forward that this actually should be reclaimed and that hacking is a very old idea. In fact, the original, I never get the right, is it etymology? The etymology of the word basically stems back to people studying at Harvard who just never went to classes. They were the original hackers. And then that got co-opted by early programming students who still wouldn't do the work but would sit at home and do their own projects. And the idea that hacking was actually, what an artist would call sketching, was then what an early coder would describe as hacking. They'd sit there and hack away until they had a piece of software that worked. And interestingly, there's a complete tangent, but loosely connected via a piece of thread. You should make an effort to go and see Interface, which is down level 2. It's a beautiful new exhibition that's just opened as part of Sydney Design. It includes the first Apple computer that Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak built and designed, and it is in an old suitcase. The Apple I was a kit you put together yourself. And you just put it in whatever case you could find and then got a cable out of it and plugged it into the back of your TV. And that's and then there's, they were quite famously part of a group in Palo Alto called the Homebrew Computer Club, which essentially is a hacker space or a maker space. That's what they were. They were just a loose group of people who would kind of get up in front of others, showcase what they've been working on. Everyone would go, wow, that's really cool. And they're like, oh, you got this thing and it's a computer and it has a monitor. That's neat. Why do you want to see what you're working on? That's what the little blinking lights are for. Little did they know. Then everything for those guys changed once they put a nice beige plastic box over their hardware. But the original beige plastic box wasn't even plastic. It was a beaten leather suitcase, which we now own. Comments? Thoughts?
That is interesting.
Thank you. I do good work.
I don't know. What do you people think? What do you think about the Maker Faire, or the Maker Faire being here? Or what questions have you got? Would you like to know about why at the museum or anything else to do with it that we might have the faintest idea about?
How did you find the makers to bring to this space? Because there's a lot of disparate people here. How did you find them in the first place?
It's a simultaneously easy and difficult question. I'm really sorry about the buzz. We had an open call for makers, which went out. We're in August, so at the end of May to early June, we gave a 3-week to 4-week call for people just to apply. And it's great that you say that it is disparate, because that's actually quite the challenge. So last year when this was all very theoretical, Peter's kind of mission statement to me was like, the technology people will come. And in fact, Sabrina Merlo, who's kind of the overall head of Maker Faire, be it a mini or macro Maker Faire, kind of said to us like, no, I won't put it like that. She said, the technology people will find you. They just will. They know this exists. It's like everyone else is who you have to go and hunt for. And so there's kind of, and it still happens. Like when I talk to people, even the Lace Makers Guild, if for some reason you're otherwise not aware of them, please go and say hi to our friends in the Lace Study Centre. The Powerhouse Museum holds the largest collection of lace in the Southern Hemisphere, and it is not held together literally, but the people who run and look after and showcase that work are all volunteers to the museum. And they do fantastic work. And to explain to those people that they actually are part of this bigger thing is surprisingly difficult, because the movement, and that's kind of the problem with the capital M Maker, is that people immediately associate it with technology and kits. And so we worked very hard think this is the answer, the actual answer to your question. It's like we had to work very hard to encourage people to join the club, and not only join the club, but let them know that they were already in it, that it all counts. And as Peter mentioned earlier, like a lot of people don't identify with the term because it has a branding associated with it. So, you know, that's where you get people who literally say, "Oh, I'm not a maker, I'm a fixer," or I'm just a guy. I'm a guy who does things. Last year we had a lady who I can't remember her name, but her whole thing that she did was just made live drawings on a Wacom tablet, and she worked digitally and then printed it off, and she gave demonstrations about cartooning. This year we have Elise Cameron Smith on level 1, who's set up basically a grotto complete with foliage. And
it's beautiful.
It is beautiful, and she's wood carving throughout the weekend in the middle of that, and she sells her own handmade furniture. We have, of course, Biohack Sydney, who are just around the corner, and I can't even begin to tell you how wonderful and terrifying those guys are, because I just don't understand what they do. Ian Wolfe here has a much better understanding of what they do than I do, but you can see the enthusiasm that they have and how eager they are to talk about their process, and that's what kind of speaks to me more than anything else. It's one thing if you 3D print jewelry or little trinkets to kind of sit on people's mantelpieces, and we have space for that, and there are people here who do that. But what we want is that transparency. We want people who talk about their process. And, you know, I do this, but you can too. And I can't get too excited about that process, because then you'll all start to think you can have my job, and I like it, even though it keeps me up at night. Because it should.
So we tried everything we could, given that last year there was 2 of us, and this year we've expanded to 2, a different 2. But, you know, so we activated all the networks that we could, and sometimes that was really easy because we knew some people who were kind of in the middle of those groups. Other times we just cold called and emailed, like the Origami Society didn't see themselves as being part of a Maker Faire. So sometimes it was just trying out, and some of those didn't work out. And there was some, there's some things were our fault, some things just didn't work out, but just trying to get the word out as best we could. We had a public meeting last year where we just kind of invited as many people as we could and asked others in the museum, do you know somebody who might be interested in this? Thanks for your question. Is it me?
No, but if I use this and not this at the same time, the buzz seems to have stopped. So it would be a shame if somebody was filming this for posterity purposes. That would be horrible. So, podcast gold. Yeah, did we answer your question?
Were there any other questions? Is there anything else that you're wondering about, really, or that you think we might know the answer to?
Oh, I was just wondering, are you looking to branch into, say, game designers, so forth in the future?
We had game designers last year. I mean, ultimately, we're at the mercy of what people put to us. And so the answer is, of course, yes. Because the more, and it's hard because, you're in a large cultural institution, and particularly because we're part of Sydney Design this year, we have a particular mandate and focus towards design futures, which is the theme of the larger festival. And so with that in mind, of course, game design is very much a part of design. That it's one reason to that end why, aside from them being wildly successful, ThinkSpace this weekend is running introductory courses to Minecraft. So free 1-hour sessions where people who, ideally haven't tried the.
Are we biased to things that are outside the screen, though?
At the moment, are we biased to things that are outside the screen? I don't think so, but I suppose that comes back to what I was initially trying to get at, is that we are at the mercy of what is put to us, but also, there are definitely deficiencies in the curatorial process that we can improve upon for next year. And because, this is kind of the difficult second album, so we had an initial, oh, it's back. It's It's my magnetic personality. Thank you. I'm here all weekend. Last year we went hunting. This year we kind of went back and thought we have now a base from which to draw, and hopefully that will bring new people. And you know, once you get to the third year, the final act of the trilogy, however you want it, I love metaphors, so just pick one and run with it. Yeah, you know, with a bigger budget, bigger explosions, more power, more responsibility, and hopefully will bring more things. That's one reason why we're doing things like this and having a more expensive talks program, is mostly just to encourage people to know what we're about what we talk about when we're talking about the Sydney Mini Maker Faire, but also to know that you too can be part of this. The answer to your question is yes. Andrew Lay.
Why is it a mini Maker Faire?
The Mini Maker Faire is to a Maker Faire as TEDx is to TED. We are an independently produced Maker Faire. The Maker Faire proper is a much larger thing. It is more directly controlled by Maker Media, which is the parent organisation that licenses the Mini Maker Faire.
How many people here have been to Maker Faire? Anyone been to other Maker Fairs?
The more famous ones are the Bay Area Maker Faire or World Maker Faire in New York. Yeah, has anyone actually been to one?
Anyone been to anyone been to any other Maker Faire?
Mini all. So for whatever it's worth, this is the 4th Mini Maker Faire in Australia. It's the 2nd one in Sydney, following events in 2012 in Melbourne and 2013 in Adelaide. The organising committee of the 2012 Melbourne Mini Maker Faire then ran a fair last year called Eurisco. Same concept, different branding, different level of organisation. They actually have developed what they called an open fair model. So they wanted to encourage other people to take their template. They open source their planning documents. You too can run a Mini Maker Faire. And that's the most interesting thing about the Mini Maker Faire as opposed to the, and I realise Claire is very diligently trying to flag me that we're out of time. But we've got 2 minutes. Thank you, Peter. It's all right, because we're here at 11 o'clock anyway, so you can hear more from us. Yeah, that's why I was surprised that...
Other people coming later?
Yeah, who knows? We have John, who's already arrived, so that's good. Hopefully Gail will join us shortly, and we can just keep talking. Lost my thread. The Mini Maker Faire can be run, and was initially in Melbourne, out of a garage. It's designed to be run by a grassroots organisation right through to cultural institutions. And the bigger you get in scale within the structure of what's essentially a grassroots project has its challenges depending on what is and isn't possible. And of course, it's something that originated out of California. And so you have to adapt the model to local contexts. And again, that has all kinds of challenges and implications. And that's why it's a Mini Maker Faire. And the broader answer is to do a Maker Faire proper, you would actually need a venue the size of the oncoming convention centre, of which the Powerhouse Museum is not. And we're not at that bridge yet. We're lucky enough to just be able to do a second one this year.
Although, just very quickly on that, with 45 seconds remaining, there's so many changes. I don't know if you have picked them up in coming here or if you hang out in this part of town very often, but the Ultimo Piedmont pedestrian walkway, which when we get to the ABC connects us straight through to the platforms, the suburban platforms at Central Station, is going to roll right through to here and down to Darling Harbour. And basically what's coming for this part of Sydney, inner city Sydney, is an amazing mall kind of area where there'll be night markets, and there's 2 gigantic student accommodation towers going where the car park behind the entertainment centre is. And this whole southern Darling Harbour precinct, which we're just on the very, very edge of, will be unrecognisable in 3 to 4 years. We've got the Frank Gehry building just being built next door to us. just there between us and the ABC, and it's really a part of town which is going to kind of be very different in the next few years. So there are going to be opportunities that aren't at the moment in terms of how we could potentially do something on a larger scale.
We are out of time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming by.
Thanks, everybody.
Enjoy the Sydney Mini Maker Faire.